We're going to do a recap of what we learned in Sha'ar HaYichud veHaEmunah. Starting from chapter 1, we're going to go through the main principles that the Alter Rabbi teaches us over here. Thank you, Yaakov, for filming this shiur today. And we're going to go all the way through till chapter 4.
Before you recap, you can put it in the title. Not the title,
The title of the recap?
No, if you had to do a one-sentence summary
of the whole thing. So maybe we'll do it after we speak about with a bit of details, then it'll be easier to draw one title. So the Alter Rebbe starts off with the famous verse that we say it every single day in Aleinu. V'yadata hayom v'ashivota elevavecha b'shamayim mima'al v'al haaretz mitachat en od. And the emphasis over there is over the words en od. The meaning behind what does en od mean? Literally the meaning is en od, that there is nothing else. So Chassidus says, you know what, if we take this in a literal meaning, and we should take it in a literal meaning, we have to come to the conclusion that en od means that there is nothing else at all. So it's a deeper level in understanding what Hashem's existence is. Not only that He exists and He's the creator, but there is nothing else besides Him.
Or He's within everything. So
you explaining what the meaning behind en od is. Before we go into the explanation, because we're also going to have a question about it. The basic meaning is that there is nothing else besides Hashem. And by the way, it's interesting, the idea of en NACHLAOT semidei pshuto, that's Rashi. And Rashi starts off in the previous parsha, Parshas Bereshis, that en NACHLAOT semidei pshuto, we learn always according to the pshat. So en od means that there is nothing else. And the question is, how could that be? Sorry?
I was up all night with this Friday night, but that's one of Cain's defenses. What's the difference? If God's with everything, why is one offering better than another? It's all Hashem.
That's an interesting interpretation of his argument. Is this your personal view on it, or there's a source to it?
It only got to be yesterday at 10:30 on the 10th. But no, everyone has a different explanation, which means there really isn't one. But, no, so it was this one.
We'll speak about the idea that Hashem is within everything. What does that mean? Midei pshuto.
It's referred to Chumash or to everything?
You mean to everything, to Nevi'im as well, to Ktuvim as well?
Whatever.
And NACHLAOT semidei pshuto is that everything, there's a literal meaning to it first and foremost. And that's the way Rashi understands things. Other commenters, Milchatchila, you open the Orach Chaim.
It applies to whatever is written in our books.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
It's rather.
So again, if you go into the Gemara, so Milchatchila, there are certain things that are al derech hadrush. If you're going to open a Sefer Chassidus, or if you open, for example, the stories in the Gemara of Rabbi Bar Chana, so there we don't say en NACHLAOT semidei pshuto. There, lechatchila, the Torah hinted it to us in a mashal. Or if we speak about, again, where the Torah clearly says the mashal of Bilam, or other parables that the Torah speaks about, so that in the first place, we're talking about a parable. We're not talking about mamash, a real, the literal meaning. But when we read about the Torah, it's a certain message, it's a certain way, and Rashi as the most important commentator, that is his shita. He always says, pshuto shel mikra. Sometimes he would add to that. That's why he says, pirush acher, pirush nosaf, shamati mi Rabbi Moshe hadarshan. That's when an additional pirush comes in. But the basic pirush is en NACHLAOT semidei pshuto. So en od means that there is nothing else besides Hashem. And immediately the question is, what does it mean? What is the meaning of the idea that enod? So starting off from what the Baal Shem Tov teaches us, and it's very much connected also to Parshas Bereshis, where we start off with the names of each and every animal. It says that the animals, or all the objects, Adam gave them a name. Why did they need to come to Adam for a name? Because Adam knew the purpose of that object or creature, animal, whatever it is, and based on that purpose, he named them a certain name. And that is, first of all, to show that everything has a certain purpose and is part of the creation of Hashem. And not only that, that the purpose is hinted in the name itself. Or not only the purpose, but the being, what he is hinted in the name. And that shows, the third thing is that Lashon HaKodesh, the holy language, is precise and accurate, and not stam accurate, but accurate to the core of every being. And based on that, the Baal Shem Tov says, La'olam Hashem dvar chanitzav b'shamayim, these words that with them Hashem created the world, created these objects, they constantly exist within the object itself. La'olam Hashem dvar chanitzav b'shamayim, and without these words constantly being in the Shamayim, or in the Aretz, or in the Eitz, or in the Pri, or in the Chaya, they would not have an existence. So that is the idea of the creation. That is the real meaning of the creation, a constant connection to the source that gives and generates life to all the objects around. And then the Alter Rebbe goes into details. The Alter Rebbe says, perhaps Hashem does not say Vayehi Even, like he says Vayehi Or. So where does the Even get its life from? It doesn't really say Yehi Shulchan in the 10 utterances, Asara HaMa'amarot, in the story of Bereshis. Doesn't mention every detail. So here the Alter Rebbe says there's an important concept, and that is Tzirufim, Chilufim, and Gematrias. Tzirufim is combinations. Chilufim is exchanges, when we change one letter to another. And the third one is Gematrias, which is the numeric value. And that shows that there has to come some kind of connection from the 10 utterances to the object, to Shulchan. How does that happen? There could be exchanges, numeric values, and through that, that's the life that Hashem generates, yes.
We could eventually say evolution is the exchange of the letters and numbers.
That's a very interesting idea.
Is a kind of an evolution.
Yeah, 100%. It's a very good point. Evolution, yeah. That Hashem says Yehi Or. Yehi Or is a very dense, powerful, strong amount of light that Hashem is giving to the world. And that's why the sun and light is such a powerful thing. It's very powerful.
30 degrees in the sun and 20 degrees in my house.
That's because you're in Yerushalayim. So, from that Or, there is an exchange, and there could be another exchange, another chiluf, etc.
From Ruach, Nafar, Resh,
Mayim. Arba Yesodot.
Evolution
Nachon.
comes from the Tzirufim.
That's a famous Ramban that we spoke about also, that's brought widely in Chassidus.
Yes.
Not widely, but it's brought out quite a few times in Chassidus, yeah.
Chapter 2, Pasuk 5.
Yeah. It's not about the time that evolution claims things to be, but It's about the concept and the idea. Definitely, we know that it's like Seder Ishtalshalos. Chachma,
The same idea.
Bina, Das, yeah. But it's all based on Hashem doing the exchanges in a certain way, creating the evolution. And it's not a self process that happens. And okay, so this is the idea of chilufim. Tmura is gematria, is when you exchange and combine certain letters. Now, a lot of Kabbalists, they specialize specifically in this part. They basically know not only the languages, but the meanings or what can happen. And a lot of the, you open a Siddur of Kabbalah, you'll see there, a lot of the words are not understood. Bichlal.
Atbash also.
Atbash, right. So that's like we spoke about the story of the girl writing to the Rabbi in a language where...
Well, that's a story.
Okay, it's a beautiful story.
And he understood.
And the Rabbi understood, and the Rabbi said thank you in that same language. And that language was that you skip one letter. So instead of Aleph, you write Beis. Instead of Beis, you write Gimel. Instead of Gimel, you write Aleph. And you can play with this forever. Atbash is you change the first to the last, second last to the second, etc. And you can make up your own language even. And that is the idea of the Asara Ma'amarot, constantly giving life here to the world. That is practically chapter number 1. So what is the line of chapter number 1? It's that there is nothing else besides Hashem. And as an introduction, we are understanding that the process of creation is something that is continuous. It happens every single moment. And chapter 2 is leaving from that point. Chapter 2, the Alter Rebbe says, this can explain, first of all, miracles. And not only that this can explain miracles, but this could also explain how the Kofrim are very, very wrong with their understanding of the story of creation. So, one of the famous sayings is, Azav Hashem et haaretz, Hashem left the world. Contradicting the idea of L'olam Hashem dvar chanitza b'shamayim, of what the Baal Shem Tov says that Hashem is constantly giving life. So the Alter Rebbe says, what's the proof? So the Alter Rebbe here tells us that the default of the world is to return back to Tohu, or not even Tohu, to no existence. Ex nihilo, to return back to nihilo, to ayin. The world is a chidush, the world is an innovation.
But an innovation is L'olam voed.
Sorry?
It's L'olam voed.
Why is it L'olam voed? That's exactly the point, because Hashem always is machadesh it. It's like a rock or a stone that you see flying upwards. So a person's not going to say that it happens by itself. Of course, there's someone that causes it, because the default of a stone, of anything heavy, is to be drawn towards the ground.
On earth.
On the earth, right. On the earth. Koach HaKvidah, right? What's the word for Koach HaKvidah? Gravity. So gravity, the default of anything, so and if you see it flying in the air, there's got to be a koach that basically is forcing that stone to contradict gravity. And that is how it's actually flying in the earth. But the moment the koach, the energy is out, goes back to its starting point. So with the world, it's the exact same thing. The fact that there's a world that exists is a wonder. It's a pele. Why is it a pele? Because the only real existence is Hashem. And Hashem's existence does not give room to any other existence. the fact that we see here an existence that seems like it is self-generated, and that it's that it has a feeling as if it created itself, and that's the feeling that everyone has here. No one goes with a constant feeling that it's being created every single moment. No. Even though that might explain that within Am Yisrael there is a bit of a fragile feeling about our existence because of the persecution throughout the generations. Probably there's research done about it, but there's definitely a difference in the feeling that we have, because we know we were expelled from this country, exiled from that country, sent away from that country. So that is something that is that builds into our DNA. I don't know to what level, but it definitely is built into our culture. The wandering Jew, but otherwise we don't go with a feeling that we are always getting life directly from Hashem. And if you do go with that feeling around you, you're probably a very righteous person, a very good person. You don't take things for granted. You see the hand of Hashem often. You appreciate what happens to you. You accept things that happen. You don't fight back, because you know that it's something that Hashem is currently giving you.
You may cry.
You can. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that.
But with worded about,
Sorry?
if you were going off the derek or whatever,
Yeah.
you could possibly say, excuse me, chef, I'm doing this now. I know it's wrong.
Yeah.
Nora Alila.
So Nora Lila, that's yeah. So the Rabbi always told people, first of all, yes, you could say such a thing. And there are those, and you could say that it's not as worse as a person that gives an excuse or a reason, or he really believes that Hashem is not involved or anything like that. But the Rebbe said that with the challenges that we have, we also have the power to confront them. So it's not like any excuse, or it's not like something that's permitted in one way or another. It's another form of the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara is the most clever creature in the world, and he's also he adjusts the best. He's like a snake. He'll get his way anywhere. And he knows, because what's the Yetzer Hara? It's the other side of our personality that Hashem gives us, that challenges us. So this Yetzer Hara is going to find a trick for that person. So you know what? He's not going to fall for my old-fashioned style of, okay, just nothing's true, nothing's real. Let's be a bit of a chacham with him. Let's try and say, everything's fine, everything's true, but I want to take a bit of a break for now. So we've got to know that is our mission, that we have power to face that as well. And that's not something that Hashem wants, approves, and we're going to come to it next parasha. Avraham Avinu, it's the first time that Avraham Avinu listens to Hashem, and that's where we actually recognize him. We don't speak about him in Parshas Noach. The first time we speak about Avraham in the Torah is when Avraham follows Hashem's commands. When he goes, Lech lecha me'artzecha. His life story began quite a few years before that. Some opinions, 80 years, 40 years, whatever it is, but he didn't start off from Lech lecha. But that's the first time that he listens to Hashem.
Those came up over some point, Friday night again, that the Yetzer Hara was created over 6 days. You ever heard that?
Yeah, I've heard it. That's one of the...
The Choshech al Pnei Tehom is the connection with the Yetzer Hara.
Okay. There could be a bit of a connection. I don't know, like a specific way to connect, but... Tohu, the whole idea of Tov Vavo, what the meaning of that is.
Yeah, Choshech. Something very heavy.
we've got to do a book of summarizing the history events and the godly development in the world, and to see the connection between the two.
There is.
Which book?
I've seen once. I cannot find it anymore.
I would love to see that.
To compare whatever happened in the Bible stories and following, and what happened in the world.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
There's one sikh of the Rabbi about the famous Zohar. The Zohar says, "B'shnat 600 l'chayei Noach niftechu hashamayim." Arubot hashamayim niftach. And the Zohar says that the 600, within the 5,000, there will be a lot of wisdom that will be poured and showered into the world.
Time of Maran of Prague.
That started in Maran of Prague. Interesting, yeah. And that's also the time when Hasidus started. Maran of Prague's the seeds of Hasidus. And not only that, but the Industrial Revolution. And we see it very much in many, many occasions, even now with what's happening.
Speaking of Maran of Prague, I read last week. Let's take for us the example of Akedat Yitzchak.
Okay.
He doesn't make this example, but he says, as we know that Kadma Torah, Derech Eretz, Kadma Torah. Derech Eretz must always be before Halacha. If Derech Eretz and Halacha conflict, you must behave for Derech Eretz.
Interesting. How's that connected to Akedat Yitzchak?
This is my point of view. Because I always ask to myself, if I would have been asked the same, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's against our ethics. If it is against Derech Eretz Shelanu, I cannot do it. You make me and you say, you can make this and that. I wouldn't do it. And I wouldn't do it. God so
forgive.
No, you shouldn't prove it.
In Hasidus, in Hasidus it says, the question is that everyone would do it. What is the Chiddush of Avraham Avinu? Yeah. Okay.
So if the Rabbi tells you jump the window,
you
will do it. I wouldn't.
Yeah. It's a tough question.
What for?
Do it.
Can I have
Sometimes,
Good point.
sometimes the Rebbe does ask us to jump from the window.
No, you have to go to South Africa, go to Mozambique,
Exactly.
go to
Emunah only goes so far. Emunah only goes so far.
And let's ask another question. Did Avraham Avinu know that Hashem will end up canceling it afterwards?
This is what Eli Wiesel says. It was a bet between Avraham Avinu and God. Eli Wiesel said it. And Eli Wiesel says, I bet God, you won't go to the end.
Well, he said, at the beginning, he said, we're going to the mountain and we will return. So, do something.
Menashura, yes.
I think that's one of the stories, and that's what's beautiful about Bereshis. You can learn each parsha for a year. Bemet.
Oh, yeah.
And this time, this year,
you can learn from 10 years.
Oh, absolutely.
Why don't we do it?
we should. You can.
Is there any?
That this year we missed out because Bereshis we had one day to study for.
Well,
Friday.
And we hear the same story. Bereshit is always
2-3 days.
Anybody
The sound?
doing the parsha on a 3-year cycle?
I remember there's such a way to do it.
to do what? How?
3 years, the cycle, they do it in 3 years.
Triennial cycle.
Yeah.
The Chumash in 3 years.
Yeah. You wanted to ask something before, mention something?
No.
So one of the stories of Akedas Yitzchak, it's a story that there's Shivim Panim La Torah, literally. You can like find 70 ways. Did he know, did he not know what's Yishmael's role? We're getting up to Yishmael, and we see it today. Perhaps to extend that idea is that Yishmael is also, it's like maybe similar to what Eli Wiesel said, is that it's like Hashem wants to drive Avraham to the highest point within him, to the highest point of Mesirut Nefesh that he could achieve, to sharpen his senses, his holy senses, to the highest way possible.
Listen, if you wouldn't have been taught what we have been taught, could you accept both rationally and mystically Akedat Yitzchak? Can you understand it?
Depends what the meaning of understanding is.
The idea of you are chosuk of the God, whatever.
No, but for sure you could understand it if you understand that Hashem is the one that gives life.
Nevertheless,
if He's the one that gives life, He determines, and that comes to...
He can take my life away.
Yes.
But I cannot go against His rules.
What is His rules? To give life?
Yes, not to take life.
No, but here He's telling you as an exception, He wants you to take life. By the way, the Rabbi says that that's the idea of Mesirut Nefesh, because it's so counter to our values, and not only to our values, but to what Hashem teaches us. That proves that it's really Mesirut Nefesh. Because if it would be understood, and if that would align with our values, it wouldn't be Mesirut Nefesh. The fact that you are prepared to go against your values, that is the sign of Mesirut Nefesh. If it aligns with your values,
I agree with you.
Even Hashem's values.
No, this is different.
Yeah.
You have been taught Hashem
wants life. But Hashem says, you know what, here I want you to listen to an exception where I truly say, you know what, despite the fact that I give life, and that's the whole purpose of the world, here I'm requesting you to do something that is not only that, but it was, the Rebbe said, it was against what Avraham Avinu tried to teach the world for the past 60, 70, 80 years.
Take the Muslims.
Yeah.
Or Moloch.
Yeah.
If he really believes that his God is asking him, if he believes it, as we believe that God is ordering us whatever,
right?
He is believing that his God is ordering him,
right,
to kill his son.
Right.
What is the difference?
The difference is that we know that our God doesn't really believe in it, and nevertheless we do it because He says so.
The same that the Moloch one.
No. The Muslims, because that's what they say. The Muslims say that...
No, not take the Muslim.
What's the Malak?
The Malak at that time.
At that time.
I know what they thought.
Because it was so common. Because it happened so often.
They were religious.
They were very religious, you mean. Yeah, but again, maybe some, because we don't have like documented information about them, it's hard to go and say exactly what they thought. But hypothetically, let's speak about Judaism. Judaism, there's one person that is not buried within the cemetery, and that's a person that kills himself. Today, what? Of that person.
I made the Torah.
And someone that...
And we put him on...
I know, because so today they say it's a ruach shtut. Yeah. But in the halakha, like originally, and maybe there are cases where they can say, this person cannot be buried in a... So to that extent, And all the mitzvahs of Judaism is v'chai bahem.
Mhm.
By the way, again, this is a development that took time for it to happen. At the beginning, the world was not like that.
מעשה האבות, סימן לבנים.
Right.
So if nowadays, God forbid, God comes and tells you to do what he asked you Avram, what would you do? מעשה אבות, סימן לבנים, you should do it.
You know what? Sometimes he asks for that. Not for that exact, what he told Avram, but he asks for other things that are not our nature. Take circumcision, for example. Okay, it's another mitzvah, but it's not that you don't need Mesirut Nefesh to do it. But it's not something that aligns with like human values. Today they found that it's healthy. But that's not how it was all the time, and we don't do it because it's healthy. We do it because Hashem wants us to do it. And many other yeah. And many other mitzvot and also the cases of our Mesirut Nefesh in many cases were not by our choice.
Exactly.
And that's a big difference. Like
Yes.
the Muslims today, for example, and also the Avodah Zarah, it was by their choice, you know. If you woke up and you one day you said, you know what, I don't have koach. I like my life like this. Hashem, sorry. You know, in many cases we were forced into Mesirut Nefesh. For the example, the Holocaust. Yes, no one really asked you, would you? It wasn't a question about whether you want to convert and you would be spared, or they would kill anyways. That's another point where we see like the type of Mesirut Nefesh that we face. So on the one hand, it's like it's not even in your hands, so you're not doing Mesirut Nefesh, but it's not like that. It is the highest level of Mesirut Nefesh is when it's not by choice.
This is the highest.
Yes, because it shows,
So
it
now
reflects.
by choice.
Yeah, but at a certain point, it reflects that it's pointless, that the fact that someone's killing you shows that you are something else, you're a different creature. Because it's so pointless. There's one of the...
Is there any point in this scenario you can deny being a Jew?
What's the question?
Listen, I mean, in certain...
Deny being a Jew, save your life.
To save your life, according to the halakha. So...
Rambam is the problem.
Yeah, it's a good question. It depends what it means. It's like going to the local office, asking to erase your national thing. Maybe it's not that. They say the Rabbi, is it the Rabbi or the Rabbi's brother, that during the Holocaust, he went to the office of not the Rabbi, wasn't the Rabbi, maybe the Rabbi's brother. He went and he wanted them to write him as a Jew. But I don't think it was, it's not, so it depends what we're talking about. Again, if someone says, Avodah Zarah is Avodah Zarah. But that a person says, you know what, you don't, who's Jewish here? I don't think you have to raise your hand. Raise your hand. But
one thing written, guys pointing a gun in your hand.
Yeah.
It says, are you Jewish? You can't say no, but you can say, why would you think I'm Jewish?
Yeah.
During the war,
That's a good,
my father's brother
yeah.
didn't have documents in Italy. And he was on a bus. And the police asked him the documents, and he had only the permit to go in buses.
Yeah.
And they asked him, what religion are you of? He said, the same religion of Jesus.
That's a very good one. Yeah, fair. It's a genius answer.
Well,
And-
Milano,
same religion as,
Jesus.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how it came in mind.
It's a genius one. So, there's a lot of like thoughts about it, but but the fact that it's not, that it's like pointless, you know, like we are a nation that desires life. Like the past 20 years until this war broke out, it was a time that Israel was like thriving. You know, people did not want to believe that they would need to face any other like. זה החשמל. כן. קצת בשיעור. אם זה לא רועש מדי, זה הכל בסדר. חשמל אפשר לנתק, כן, זה לא מואר פה, כן. So, the fact that it's like so, it's like pointless. We are forced to be in that case. It means that there's something else involved, that Hashem's involved over here. So then it was the first time that it was introduced into the world. Maybe we'll speak about it more in Parshas Vayera. There's definitely a lot to do. So chapter 2, and we'll summarize chapter 2, is the logical explanation to the idea that there has to be Dvar Hashem Nitzav Hashemayim. That constantly there has to be a living force, or the words of the 10 utterances, their exchanges, their gematria, the numeric value, whatever it is, constantly has to be within the world. And the idea is, chapter 2 is the logical explanation, and the logical explanation is that it's no less than a miracle, the existence of the world. And if a miracle has to be constantly brought to life, the world also constantly has to be brought into life. And what example we have? We have the example of Kriyas Yamsuf, the splitting of the Red Sea. It says that Vayelech Hashem beruach kadim azak kol halayla. All the night there was this wind that was blowing and stopping, preventing the water from falling back to its natural point. And in that same way, the world has also, every single moment, the living force of Hashem, bringing it to life, stopping it from becoming nullified. That is chapter 2. Okay. Chapter 3 is a very interesting question. Chapter 3 is, if Hashem constantly gives life to the world and to every creature, so how can we feel that we exist? Why don't we feel that type of life? Why don't we feel that energy?
Why don't we?
Why don't we feel it? We should feel it. We should be every single day just praying to Hashem. Never mind listening to what He says. Never mind being able to fight the Yetzer Hara back. We should tell the Yetzer Hara simple, Hashem's giving me life. What can I do something against it?
What is the difference between an animal, a Jew, and the Goy? In feeling what you are saying.
Yeah.
That God is in everything.
Yeah. By the way, they say that, take for example the planets.
Yeah.
They always are moving towards, if I'm not mistaken, the Ma'arav, to the west, because the Shekhinah is in the Ma'arav. The Shekhinah is in the west. And it says that they have a certain level of acknowledgement of the existence of Hashem. They have, the Rambam says at the beginning, Rabbi Silver used to teach it, that the Kochavim, they had a certain amount of wisdom, of understanding.
I would call this.
So the animals, perhaps.
Kadmut HaSechel, not Sechel.
NACHLAOT, Kadmut HaSechel. Okay. Again, what is Kadmut HaSechel?
It's the
right. It's right. And that's the idea. Yeah. They're not. I don't know if someone will go there and do a research, will find the brain of. It's not a brain, but it's the being. The animals, the same thing. You know, the animals, they have a certain level of acknowledgement of the existence of Hashem, much lower than what we have. But again, it has to do with Kadmut HaSechel. It has to do with the way that it was formed. So in that, the animal has, that's why it does what Hashem wants.
And what about NACHLAOT of several species?
So they don't, first of all, they say that they don't have, it's not really an achzariyut, but that's the way that they act. They're not doing it for the sake of cruelty. Unlike human beings, that they can actually be cruel. And again, it's because of the different way that they have. It's a different, literally, like they said, it's a different brain. Monkeys have a different brain. It's a different size, a different way that it actually performs, etc. Even the right, the nefesh, the angels, also the same thing. The angels, they have only awareness. They don't have a body. Angels don't have a body. It's a different type of a body, but it's not like our body. But the meaning of an angel is a level of awareness. Sometimes the level is closer to Hashem, sometimes it's not as close.
You know, because we were speaking about angels, some 10 years ago, I met with the offspring, the Nachman of Breslau. Yeah, he spoke for half an hour. And then when I left, he told me, every morning you should say Levadia, which is an angel, Tishmereli Lechayeli.
Levadia or Zvadia?
Levadia. Tishmereli Lechayeli. And sometimes when I say it, because I still say it mainly on Shabbos, when I say B'Sheter Elyon,
yeah,
I ask myself, how can I say this to an angel and not to God? Tishmereli v'chayeni.
okay. Yeah. The angel is just doing what Hashem wants. It's like a person does a mitzvah, you create an angel. The angel is protecting you. But what does that mean? That's a merit that you have towards Hashem, of course. Hashem's one, but through the angel, it's like a malach melitz. It's like a tzaddik. You go and you pray at the tzaddik's kever. So it's he helps you out. He melitz. So here the Alter Rebbe tells us, he brings us the parable of the sun and the light of the sun. And now Alter Rebbe says, yes, that the rays of the sun, that's what we see here around us in the world, and the rays of the sun definitely exist. The rays of the sun not only exist over here, but they also exist. Yeah, they also exist within the sun.
Within the sun.
Within the sun itself, because they come from the sun. It has to exist. But does it exist there in the same way that it exists here? No, it's nullified. That's the idea of nullification. And now the Rebbe says, that's how we should understand our existence here. We are like the rays of Hashem within Hashem himself. So now to point out what you said at the beginning, that everything is Hashem, we're not saying that everything is Hashem, we're saying everything is the rays of Hashem within Hashem himself. Why do you have to say that everything is the rays of Hashem within Hashem himself? Say everything is Hashem. It's because not everything is Hashem.
But the
table is not Hashem. But everything is like the rays that is nullified and that has to come and is connected to the sun itself. Everything is connected to the living force that comes from Hashem. And then the Alter Rebbe ends with the question, so why don't we feel it? How come we cannot feel it? By the way, it's only about our feeling. If you would be objective, right? So if you would, let's say in an objective way, if someone could wear objective glasses, they would say that we don't really exist. But nevertheless, we do not feel that. And then chapter 4, we'll continue next week with chapter 4. That's about Tzimtzum and about nullification.